First off, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today for our Northeast 99th Street open house. Before we get started, I do want to let everyone know some key items. This is a recorded meeting, so we will not be recording any cameras or chats, but the presentation and the audio will be recorded. We will also post the recorded presentation on the Northeast 99th Street website in the next couple of days, so you can look for that here probably by the end of the week. We do have with us our project manager, which is Scott Faulkner. He will be presenting this evening for us. We have our construction manager, Brad Fisher, and then the design engineer, Bruce Klug. We will have a question and answer session after the presentation has concluded. But as you can notice, everyone will be muted during the entire presentation. So during our question and answer session, you will be able to raise your virtual hand and a host will unmute you in order for you to ask audible questions. There is a feature on the computer in order to raise your virtual hand. If you'd like to speak, you'll be called on and then unmuted for you to ask your question. We do also have a chat that is enabled on this presentation. So if you think of a question during the presentation, you can go ahead and type it and send it through. We will either read it out loud or we'll try to answer it during the presentation. Either one of the project managers or engineers will answer that in the chat. I do also want to let you know that we are considerate of everyone's time, so we will adhere to our time frame. We will not let this meeting go past 6:30, so we will be ending promptly at 6:30. At the end of the presentation, we will have email addresses provided. So if you do have any further questions, you can also reach our project managers afterwards in an email. We will be emailing a Title VI form and a comment form to all of those who have attended. So if you would like to complete those and return them back to us, we would greatly appreciate it. So I'm going to go ahead and let Scott get started. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Scott Faulkner, project manager with Clark County for the Northeast 99th Street project. As we enter the construction phase, we decided to have an additional open house, and I believe this is the fourth open house we've had for this project. As many of you might know, the Northeast 99th Street project will extend from Northeast 94th Avenue on the west end to just west of SR 500 or Northeast 117th Avenue on the east end. We will be going across the closed landfill to make that connection. Kind of a project background. This project will widen and improve. Let me move my screen here. This project will widen and improve the road corridor to a 2-lane urban minor arterial. It will include 3 roundabouts, center turn lanes, a median, bike lanes, sidewalks, joint use paths, pedestrian crossings for Northeast 99th Street. The project is intended to improve traffic circulation in the vicinity, take some of the load off Northeast 119th Street and Patton Parkway. This project will complete the gap, as I mentioned, across the closed Lake Nerd landfill between Northeast 94th Avenue and just to the west of Northeast 105th Avenue. The overall project length is about 1.1 miles. We have partners in this project. City of Vancouver will be expanding and improving their water system. And Clark Regional Wastewater District will be expanding and improving their sanitary system as part of the project. We're upgrading a small portion of the county stormwater system, also as part of this project. Project funding, there's federal grants, there's state grants. We'll be using traffic impact fees, the county road fund. The City of Vancouver Water Division will be paying for their upgrades to their water system. Clark Regional Wastewater District will be contributing funds for upgrades to their system, and then the Clean Water Fund for some of the storm improvements. So kind of a project overview here. As mentioned earlier, there's 3 roundabouts. This is the county's first roundabout corridor. At the west end of the project, there'll be a roundabout at 94th Avenue and 99th Street. And then as you move to the east, there'll be the second roundabout at Northeast 107th Avenue and 99th Street. And then further to the east yet at 110th and 99th Street. This project will include, like I said, joint use paths, and that will be from 94th Avenue to approximately 110th Avenue. Pedestrians and bicyclists will share the shared use paths. However, it isn't against the law to ride your bike on the roadway, so bicyclists can choose to ride on the roadway if they choose, but the joint use path would be there as another option for them. We have 2 noise wall locations. The first one at the west end of the project, just to the east of 96th Avenue, and that will go approximately to where the existing storm ponds that serve the landfill. And then the second noise wall is at the east end of the project. And that is just to the east of 115th Avenue. And it's on the back yards of the properties just to the west of the 7-Eleven there. We are going to be making the connection at 99th Street and 96th Avenue. Roundabouts are going to include crosswalks. They will be illuminated. There's going to be splitter islands there where if you're crossing the roadway, you don't have to cross the entire width at once. You can get to that center island and wait for a clearing to continue crossing. There will be marked crosswalks still at those 3 locations. Also to the east of the 110th, 112th roundabout, there are 2 locations where we are putting in refuge islands for pedestrians that are crossing. I think that's about it for the overall view of the project. The construction schedule. Bids were open November 2nd of 2021. The contract was awarded to Nutter Corp, a Vancouver company, November 16th, 2021. We haven't set a date for the pre-construction conference, but it is coming up. And then our contract construction will begin March 1st, 2022. And then substantial completion, we are anticipating October of 2023. In our specifications, we list 340 working days. As part of this project, there's going to be road closures and detour routes. The intersection of Northeast 94th Avenue and Northeast 99th Street, that is going to be closed twice. The first closure, we don't have dates for the closures yet. Once we have a schedule from our contractor, and then we'll let the public know. The first closure, though, is to install and relocate utility lines that will require a deep excavation, and that will last approximately 1 month. And then the second closure at a to be determined time will be for the roundabout construction. It's impossible to maintain a two-way traffic. There's an elevation difference between the interim and the final grade, and it will create traffic safety concerns. So the solution for us was to close that intersection while it's being constructed. And the detour routes is shown here. They will be signed in the field. So you don't have to memorize this map at this time. They will be signed. We will provide appropriate notice for the road closures. The public will be notified by publication in the public local newspapers, excuse me, by mailers, and then there'll be a variable message sign prior to the closures. So once again, 2 closures at Northeast 99th Street and 94th Avenue, both of them approximately 1 month for each closure. The third closure is going to be at Northeast 99th Street and 107th Avenue. This intersection will only be closed once as part of this project, and it will be approximately a 1 month closure. This ensures traffic and worker safety. Excuse me. The existing intersection, as you see it out there, will be approximately 4 feet lower than it is today. Detour routes will be signed as same as the other intersection, and we will notify the public by publications in the local newspaper, mailers, and verbal message signs. Contact information, our construction manager is Brad Fisher. His phone number's there, his email address. Once again, I'm Scott Falco, the project manager. My phone number and email address is there. We'll put this screen up again at the end of the presentation so you can write that down, or if you have your cell phones with you, feel free to take a picture. You have it that way. I've also added our Public Works customer service email address. Some of the questions that come in early, there was residents that wanted speed humps. All those requests need to go through the Public Works customer service email address. So that's listed there for you. There was concerns about speeding in the neighborhood. All that needs to go through the Clark County Sheriff's Office. I've listed their hotline and their extension so that you can contact them with speeding concerns. And then, as Cindy had mentioned earlier, there's a project website that is located at the bottom of the screen here. And we'll do project updates on there. So when we have a road closure, I'm anticipating that this will be updated with those dates of road closure. So it's another avenue that you guys can look at for project updates. At the beginning of the presentation, Cindy had talked about raising your hand virtually. Here's a screen that tells you how to do that. If anyone has any questions on that, but that is there. And we can leave this up for a minute, and then I'll go back to the screen that had the contact information. And with that, we can take questions from the public.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Scott. So we didn't receive any questions on the chat, but now is the time if you would like to ask a question. I see a lot of people are on their phones. You can actually raise your hand by pressing *3, and that actually gives you the option to raise your hand and ask a question verbally. We did receive one question on the chat. What will be the new speed limit on on 99th Street?
I believe the speed limit will be posted at 35 miles an hour, and Bruce, correct me if I'm wrong, that will be the posted speed limit.
Yes, I believe so. I was actually just verifying that just to make sure. I'm pretty sure it's 35. If it's not, I'll come back and correct it.
Okay, perfect. We did receive a couple of questions on the chat. So how will the road be built over the stormwater ponds in the old landfill? And will the ponds be removed?
So the first order of work is going to be at the west end of the project. We will be right now, currently, those stormwater ponds, water sits in those ponds. I don't know what this, Cindy, do you handle these questions here, or can you see my screen?
I can't see your questions. No, I'm looking at the chat.
Okay. So water comes off, clean water comes off the closed landfill, goes into those ponds, and the water sits there until it reaches a certain elevation. And then there's pumps there, and the pumps kick on and then pump it down to Curtin Creek. As part of this project, we are going to be infiltrating a majority of that water just to the west of those existing ponds. Once we get that new facility, the infiltration gallery in, we'll be diverting all that water to the infiltration galleries, and then we'll start filling in the pond. Lots and lots of material needs to go in there. It's a big item, but that's how we're planning on filling those ponds.
Perfect, thank you. I did have one person who has their hand raised on the phone, so I'm gonna go ahead and call on them.
And Bruce and Brad, if you have anything to add, please jump in.
Okay.
I just wanted to clarify, it is 35 miles per hour between the roundabouts. But prior to each roundabout, it will be signed to go down to 25 prior to entering the roundabouts.
And I just requested someone to be unmuted, and it just said caller number 7. Hopefully they're able to unmute the function.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. I had a question. Is there plans to have a cut into the from 107th Avenue all the way north into the new Ajo neighborhood over there? It's gonna go all the way, I think, into 103rd.
So I can answer that question. That will be development driven. As those parcels of land get developed, that connection will be made. As part of our roundabout at 107th and 99th Street, we stubbed, I'll call it, and Bruce might have a different word for it, but we stubbed for a future fourth leg.
Yeah, it's right. Yeah, currently it's on the arterial atlas as 108th, extending to the north and ultimately connecting. Well, ultimately, if it ever gets all the way built out, it would go all the way to 119th. There's some big developments that took place years ago up there that could have issues with the alignment. As the parcels develop there right adjacent to 99th Street, the intent or the hope is the county will realign 108th over to 107th and make that a 4-leg roundabout. So it's designed to accommodate a future fourth leg going to the north that would swing over and tie in with the development that's happened up to the north.
Okay, but not part of this project.
No, it won't happen until those parcels develop to the north of 99th Street.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
also have a couple of questions in regards to the sound barrier. Where does it start and how tall will it be? And is it a sound barrier?
So we have two locations for the sound barrier. Like I said earlier, just to the east of 96th Avenue is where it will begin. And it will run east along the backs of, I think it's like 5 feet off the property line with the houses that are there. And then it will end either right at the east property owner, their lot. And I believe that wall is 8 feet in height. I think both sound walls are 8 feet in height, and I can confirm that. And then the second location is east of 115th Avenue along the backyards of the folks that live between 115th and that 7-Eleven store. And just so you know, a noise analysis is required if a project is federally funded and it includes constructing a roadway at a new location, significantly changes either horizontally or the vertical alignment of a roadway, and it increases the number of traffic lanes and alters the roadside topography. This project did trigger a noise analysis. We sent that out to a consultant. Clark County follows the WSDOT noise policy, which is based on federal standards. The process uses standard practice to determine where noise barriers and decide how they are configured. Not every location was eligible. Those two sections were the only ones that deemed required for noise barriers.
Thank you.
Yeah, the only thing to add to that would be it does vary in height from 8 to, I believe, just over 10, depending on where it's at in the design. But it's in that same general range.
Thank you, Bruce.
Yeah, someone had a clarifying question. Did you say that the road was going to be 4 feet lower?
Yeah. 107th, where 99th Street and 107th come together. It's kind of a drop off right there at the intersection. So when we put in that new roundabout, it's kind of one side of it was on the high point, one side of it's on the low point. And we have to accommodate the current ADA laws, the Americans with Disabilities Act. So to get all the crosswalks and everything to meet the ADA standards, we had to kind of balance that intersection and lower it down so that we could get all the grades to work. So it's a couple 100 feet to the west of 107th, and again, another 100 or 2 feet east of 107th. That whole section is kind of getting lowered.
Okay, thank you. Will there be any changes to the intersection of Northeast 105th and 94th Avenue?
It's going to look pretty much identical to what it is now. So the same basic layout. The big difference in there is going to be, we're going to have shared use paths on both sides, or joint use paths. So there won't be a striped bike lane on the roadway in those sections, but you'll have 8 foot wide or 10 foot wide in areas. Majority of it's 10 feet. We neck it down to 8 feet if we have a conflict, like with the utility pole. But the majority of it will have 10 foot wide shared use paths on both sides of the road. So it's going to look really similar to what's there now, but the curb line where the curb and gutter is shifts a little bit, and then the sidewalks are quite a bit wider.
Thank you. Will construction start at the east end or west end, or will construction be ongoing over the entire corridor concurrently?
So based off of the initial conversations I've had with our contractor, their intent is to start on the west side of the project, the west side meaning west of the landfill. They will be working on both sides concurrently in order to get this done. They'll probably be doing some wall work on the east side, when they're possibly building the roundabout at 94th Avenue. So yes, I would expect the whole corridor to have construction activities, throughout the project.
And then let me add, earlier I said that our contractor wouldn't start until March 1st, and that's correct. However, you'll probably see utility companies out there currently doing a lot of relocation work, and that's not part of our contract. They're just getting out of our way. So once we start, we won't be delayed with the utilities relocating.
One other question: how far up will the 107 will the construction take place?
How far to the south? Because we don't really go into the north. So it does go to the south. I don't know the exact number. It's probably 300 feet to the south. It's basically to the southern end of the large parcel that's there on the west side of the intersection. So if you're heading south from 99th Street, there's a large parcel on the right if you're driving south away from 99th Street. There's a big row of trees, and then there's a brand new, or not brand new, a newer subdivision just to the south of that. That's about the limits of the project for road construction. Now, as you go farther down 107th, several blocks down, we're doing some improvements to an underground infiltration system. So at 99th Street, just to the east of 107th, kind of in the low spot there near 110th, 112th, there's some wetlands. There's what we call the Spellman Sink. So it's kind of a low spot on the whole project. That area has had an issue with stormwater going back 20 years. And so if that ever gets inundated with water, it gets pumped from there up and down 107th, and then it gets infiltrated in the ground under the road. So we're doing some improvements down 107th down there, but it's basically all out in the roadway, expanding that system that's under the roadway.
Thank you. And we have a question. James raised his hand.
Yes, I have a question on expected traffic volumes. What do you expect now after this is completed next year? Do you expect the traffic volumes to change dramatically on 107 and or 99?
Yes. So currently on 99th Street, and this is traffic volumes per day, both directions, about 4,600 vehicles. So that's current. When this project is complete and in the year 2040, that number will jump up to 8,100. So this is on 99th Street. Current flows on 107th Avenue, both directions, is about 4,500 vehicles per day. In the year 2040, that will jump up to 10,100 vehicles per day.
But what would you expect in the next year in 2024? Is it 10% more both ways, 12%, 50%?
Unfortunately, we do not have a traffic engineer here. I can't answer that question. I have no idea.
I have a couple more questions if I can ask them.
Sure.
Also, we can direct those questions later to we can get you an email to a traffic engineer.
Okay. All right.
For later questions. Sorry, go ahead.
Next question is there any cell towers going to be is that part of this project? A new cell tower in this area?
No, sir.
Okay. And is there any paths going to be an additional in the electric landfill after this? Or is that part of it?
I don't know what is planned for the landfill. As part of this project, there'll be the shared joint use path.
Correct.
But that's just adjacent to the roadway. I don't know what ultimately what will happen with the landfill.
And one last question. I'm a biker, and you have these roundabouts in certain areas of the city. The roundabouts really push the biker to follow the sidewalk path around the roundabout. On these roundabouts, can you go either, as you've said earlier, just on the road, or are you sort of pushing the bicyclists to go on the sidewalk path around the roundabout?
I think that's going to be up to the rider's confidence level. If you're an experienced bike rider, by law, you have the right to be on that on the roadway, so you can go through the roundabout. Somebody like me, I'm going to be on that joint use path going through the roundabout.
Thank you.
Bruce, do you have anything to add there?
Yeah, no, exactly what you said. But also we do have oversized lanes to accommodate bicycles that will be on the travel way. So typically once you add a shared bike a bike vehicle lane, it's wider than a traditional lane. So we will have extra room in there for bicyclists to be on the road, but we are providing the shared use pass all the way through 110th/112th. And then we will have to have the bikes on the road as you go up the hill or down if you're going west prior to 110th.
So it's a similar deal like on 94th heading north from Padden. There's a widened lane on the going north. That's what you're talking about.
Correct. And that has, I believe, only an 8-foot shared use path for the whole length. We're going to be 12 feet wide through from 94th all the way through what we call the Leichner landfill. So basically the beige portion of the aerial where the landfill is, those are going to be even 12 feet wide. And then it goes down to 10 and only 8 where we have conflicts.
Okay. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Thank you. Someone asked if there's a way to get a digital set of civil plans.
Yeah, I don't know. That's for you, Scott, I guess. Have we posted it on, I don't think we've posted it on the county website.
Yeah, it's not posted on the county website. I guess we could do an FTP. This is a huge set of plans. I'll just tell you that. I think there's like 450 plan sheets. It's 2 volumes. So sending it over, by email is impossible. I'm not a techie guy, but I think it's impossible.
It is.
That said, we can. I don't see why we couldn't provide a FTP where they could download the plans.
Hey, Scott, I just looked at the files. I have them digitally here on my computer, and one is 180 megabyte and one is 166. So yeah, they're big files. We could easily put that in an FTP site, if somebody really wanted them. So that wouldn't be difficult to do.
Thank you. We have a question where wall 14 is on the north side of someone's property on 99th Street. The drawings received show wall 14 extending west from the neighbor's driveway about 90 feet long. It says based upon the scale on the drawing toward 114th Avenue, is this one of the locations that you described as a sound barrier?
No, wall 14. Wall 14 is what we consider a fill wall. So the roadway is going to be higher than the existing. So if the existing property is down here, the roadway is elevated. And so the wall is going to be supporting the roadway and the sidewalk. So roadway is going to be up higher, the wall, and then the property's down lower. So no, not a noise barrier.
Thanks. Will you clear out any shrubbery and trees that are against a property owner's fence during construction?
If it is within county right of way and it impacts our construction, it will be removed. If it's on private property, unless there was an agreement in place when our real property agents were in negotiations, that's the only way that that we would remove vegetation on private property.
Will there be sidewalks adjacent to the new road within the landfill footprint? And are you doing anything to prevent folks from accessing the landfill, either foot traffic or otherwise?
There will be, oh, go ahead, Bruce.
I don't know which one of us should answer those, but there are going to be those oversized sidewalks, so they're referred to as a shared use path or a joint use path. They're going to be separated from the road by 5 feet. So from the road surface, there'll be a 5-foot landscape strip with trees and vegetation, shrubbery, and then in the landfill area, it'll be 12 feet wide. And then it will be fenced on the south side of the sidewalk, because we got to keep people off of that landfill site. That's an area that we need to keep restricted. So it will be fenced off completely on the south side.
How about the north side, Bruce? In the area that we're calling the borrow pit, that's fenced as well?
Correct. There'll be fences on both sides. Yeah.
Great. Has there been any evaluation on the impact of property values that back up against the new road?
I'll let you take that one, Scott.
Real
property.
No. Yeah.
Okay. Where will the water retention ponds be?
So we don't have any true retention ponds in that sense. So there won't be standing water like you would see where a traditional pond. Everything from just about 107th to the west is going to all be piped down, and then it's 2 large underground infiltration galleries. So the water gets taken down there, and about 10 feet below ground, there's going to be pipes that are perforated that have holes in them. The water will go into that, and then it'll infiltrate down into the ground. To the east of 107th, that Leichner landfill area, the Spellman sink is what we refer to it. So that's on the north side of 99th Street, just to the west of, that's 112th on that side. We will have water kind of spilling out into that area, but we're putting in this bioretention soil. So it's a special soil that you can run stormwater through, and you get treatment before you infiltrate it into the ground. So the only time you should ever see standing water is if you're, an extremely high major event, you've got basically a flooding type scenario. But there shouldn't be any standing water like a traditional pond on other projects.
Is the house on northwest of 94th Avenue Roundabout still going to be demolished?
Yes, it will be. I don't have the timing of when that's going to be removed, but it will be removed.
I was told that it would be out of our way and completely done before March 1st.
Okay. And one of our agents, real property service agents, replied that it'll be actually by the end of next month. So thank you, Liz. Those are all the questions that are on the chat. I don't know if anyone else has a question that they'd like to verbally ask. Those on the phone are able to press *3 in order to raise their virtual hand. Otherwise, there aren't. Questions. I just got one more. John has a question. Do you want to ask a verbal question, John?
Looks like he asked another one about wall 14.
Yeah.
So he's got here, if I understand correctly, wall 14 is more of a retaining wall than a sound barrier. Yes, that is absolutely correct. what is the right of way distance from the south side of wall 14? Where can I put my replacement fence? I don't know if I should let real property answer that. The right of way line is quite a bit farther back from the wall itself. The wall itself will have a fence along the top. It's got to have for fall protection, so nobody on the sidewalk will fall off of the wall. So it will be fenced across the top of the wall, keeping pedestrians up on the sidewalk. So there is a gap in there between the wall and the right of way line. That's technically public right of way, county property. Those are difficult for us to keep maintained. So I definitely could see where somebody would want to use that. But if you put the fence out there, technically it is on county property. So I'll kind of leave it at that for now. And maybe if we want to follow up with real property, if they have any opinions about that, maybe shoot an email in.
Maybe email Scott. We'll route all of our questions to Scott, and then Scott can relay those onto the proper groups. There's another question in regards to power outages. Will there be any power outages during pole relocations?
CPU is out there right now. I believe they started this week relocating their power lines. That would be a good question for CPU. I don't know how the crossover works when they move from one line or one set of poles to another.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be a good question for CPU.
Thank you. Will there be a sound barrier wall on the north side of 99th Street, just east of the landfill?
No.
Yep.
And those are all the questions again on the chat. I don't know. Give it a few minutes, see if anyone else has another question, wants to raise their virtual hand.
And if you guys can't think of questions now, feel free to email me at the email address shown there. And I'll be more than happy to try to get answers for you.
No other questions. Someone had a concern in regards to this format. No other project related questions at the moment.
So I think in response to John Raff's email or his comment there, we have posted on the screen right now 3 email addresses. So feel free, you can email myself. I'll be the construction manager. Scott, he's been answering a lot of these questions. Or really a great way to contact the county is through our customer service email. They do a fantastic job of filtering emails to the right people. So John, if you have any concerns or any questions, there's 3 email addresses that would work for you.
Sit tight a couple of minutes and see if anyone else has any other questions. Otherwise, we can go ahead and wrap it up if there are no other questions.
We got another question, and it basically said, what was the estimated date for completion? We currently estimate that this project will take about 340 Monday through Friday working days, which we estimate to be somewhere in October of 2023.
One there for you, Scott.
I don't see the questions. If someone can.
Right. That question came up, who is responsible for maintenance of shared pathways? If a homeless camp start to build up on the path, like Madden, or was that Padden? Who is responsible?
Patton.
Yeah, I assume that they meant along Padden. Oh, yeah, they corrected it. Okay.
I would get a hold of that Public Works customer service line and file your complaint with them, and the county will look into it.
And the county will be doing the maintenance on the sidewalk. But yeah, you're right. If we start getting homeless camps, then get a hold of the customer service.
Thank you. And we do have a question. Caller number 10 is unmuted. So go ahead.
Is that for me?
Yep.
Thanks. Oh, okay, good. Quick question on the landfill. You're going to be bringing in a lot of material, I'm going to guess, to fill that landfill in. What's the path? Are they coming down 94th Street to fill that? You know, what is the route with all of the trucks, I assume, hauling dirt in? What's the path they're going to take? That seems like a lot of heavy duty truck traffic somewhere going on.
Yeah, so it's my understanding that based off of the contractor and where they've kind of discussed bringing the material from, they're going to bring it from the north, which, so this is all speculation. They haven't exactly identified the precise route, but if it's coming from, north of town, and it's probably not going to come from, Battleground. It's going to come from, I think they said in Castle Rock. They have a pit up there. So they're going to be trucking it down I-5. I would expect it to come down Patton, go up 94th, and then, make a loop and head right and work towards the east. But they haven't quite decided exactly how they're going to do it and what that path is.
Okay. Thank you.
One thing I just wanted to add is that it's always inconvenient when we, are in the middle of construction. We try our best to appease, the local homeowners and the local community. And we try to, we work together, we're kind of all part of the project team at that point. So we, feel free, reach out to me if you have any concerns. And, it's something that we can talk about with our contractor. If there's problems that are occurring, if there's something that's happening that's, bothering you, or you need to talk to somebody, you can call our customer service line, you can call myself, and we can help answer questions and at least explain why we're doing what we're doing. If not, there's been many times where people have called in and suggested certain things, and it's a good way to change the way we're doing things, so it's produced positive results. So
So I'll give it a few more minutes. If anyone else wants to ask a question on the chat or ask a verbal question, you're still more than welcome to raise your virtual hand. Again, if you're on the phone, you can press *3 to raise your hand. Otherwise, we will end the meeting sooner.
Yeah, Scott, I just went and looked, and we do have the final bid set on the FTP site. So I think all we'd have to do is anybody that wants it, we could just email them a link to it.
Now,
And then download it.
would it be possible to put it on the website, the project website?
Yeah, I mean, we should be able to, we could post the link back to the FTP site. I can't do it. I can't, they won't let me touch the website, but it can definitely be added.
So maybe something Cindy can do, if that's something that we want to do, or we could just wait for people to email me and we could do it that way. But whatever we normally do.
It's public information, so it's not a big deal. I mean, so I can, if you can handle that, Cindy, I can just email you a link.
Sure.
Okay, you can get it posted.
Bruce and Scott, the bid set wouldn't necessarily have the addendums in it.
Okay, I will update the FTP site with the conformed set before I send the link out. All right.
It looks like we just got a new person from the public. They have any questions for us?
I haven't gotten anything on the chat and there are no hands raised, so. Give it a couple more minutes. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and end the meeting. Those who missed it or were unable to attend, we're going to have a recording of this meeting and they can watch it at a later time. Your information is also on the website. So if people do have any questions, they can definitely reach out to you.
We're dwindling.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll go ahead and close the meeting here in the next minute. I do want to thank everyone for attending the meeting. Again, our contact information will be posted on the project website as well, along with the recorded meeting of this presentation. Thank you all for attending. We'll go ahead and end the meeting and let everyone have some time back. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone. Good job, Cindy.
Thank you.